Do you really think you can save them? Is a question that likely perplexed everyone when doing Desert Treasure 2. Coming to the Silent Choir and waking up to be surrounded by multiple copies of yourself taunting you endlessly. All ending with that one question. Do you really think you can save them? Before delving into who Xau-Tak is, we should cover its domain, the Shadow Realm. A realm that is hidden in plain sight, not quite its own separate dimension. Think of it sitting next to ours, but just being slightly to the left so we can't perceive it without aid. Essentially, it's an invisible layer that spans the whole world. As far as we can theorise, objects and beings who are inside are normally just out of touch from those in the regular reality, if you want to call it that. Thankfully, being the dashing adventurers that we are, we can use the Ring of Visibility or the Ring of Shadows to see these beings, and through using a little bit of Blackstone, we can very briefly enter the Shadow Realm during 2 boss fights within the game. Other beings, such as gods and Marjarat, are able to pierce the veil and peer into the Shadow Realm, though no such means exists for us, as far as I'm aware. There's multiple objects from the Shadow Realm that feature in certain quests. The entrance to the Shadow Dungeon, the Ghostly Robes, and the Shadow Sword. So we get breadcrumbs leading us to a better understanding of Gielinor and its hidden realm. I've even alluded to us visiting the Shadow Realm. During the Xau-Tak fight in Theatre of Blood, you go through the Shadow Realm to complete a puzzle, and during Desert Treasure 2 you can enter puddles to go into the Shadow Realm version of the Lassar Undercity, seeing what horrors await you there as you try and manoeuvre around, though we can't stay in there for long. Our sanity drains and it drains quickly. And of course, the most recent addition, the Whisperer boss fight. A siren who had been driven to madness, the voices of the Blackstone pillar driving her to insanity. So much so that when we combat her we need to use a piece of Blackstone to enter the Shadow Realm and kill certain thralls that she summons. Which leads me on to my next point, a vital aspect of the Shadow Realm, Blackstone. Described as an ancient pillar, there's 2 within Gielinor that we have found so far. One, pretty influential, and the other, not so much. So let's get into it. First, we'll cover the important Blackstone pillar, the one found in the Church of the Silent Choir within the Lassar Undercity. Prior to the appearance of the totem and the formation of the Silent Choir, we find a small piece of history within the book Imcandoria's Fall. It describes how an acolyte discovered a strange black idol with odd scratched markings along the beach of the island of Garma, and he had done the most sensible thing. He sent the idol to the elders of Imcandoria for safekeeping, but little did they know that their possession of the idol would lead to violent storms to develop around Imcandoria, forcing the dwarves to seek refuge elsewhere. Though when a group of dwarves returned to the city 5 months after the initial discovery, they found the city empty, apart from the temple. The temple was filled with piles of bodies and pools of blood, alongside a grotesque mass atop a throne of oily black rock. Listening to numerous conversations from remnants, we can roughly gather some information about the pillar. During the Third Age, Slisk had found the pillar in the ruins of the dwarven city of Imcandoria in Acheron. Slisk specifically says they lost their homes as a result. The other mysterious voice speaking to Slisk asks what happened to the dwarves, and he simply responds that they fled south, but some remained under the pillar's control. They brought the pillar with them as they sought out the survivors, and before long, they too succumbed to its influence. Though Slisk did bring the pillar into Lassar, the pillar did begin to leech into the survivors of the Zarosian Empire within the hidden city, slowly turning friends to enemies who wanted to envelop others under the control of this mysterious force. Shortly after Slisk began experimenting on the pillar, he ordered that the Whisperer be stationed at Lassar to ensure his experiment could proceed with no delays. Though as quickly as the experiments happened, a mysterious, dangerous energy began to be expelled from the pillar, driving those researchers mad, beginning to speak about seas, curses and a Blackstone. Seeing the immediate threat, Slisk and his ilk conjured a barrier to minimise the effect of its corruption whilst getting more researchers to study the pillar further. But as time went on, the veil between the Shadow Realm and Gielinor wore thin the longer the pillar was abused, strengthening the presence of the Shadow Realm within the area. Eventually, during the war, the remaining dwarves of Imcandoria began to approach Lassar, having vengeance in their eyes, and after being promised the fortress of Lassar by the Saradominists. Knowing that Lassar would inevitably fall, Slisk formulated a plan. To ensure there were no disruptions, Slisk had ordered that the pillar remain within the city, and tasked the Whisperer to conduct more thorough testing, which we can guess what that means. She killed the High Magister of Lassar and sealed the Undercity, before removing the magical barriers placed around the pillar, with Slisk's assistance, something that would inevitably lead to her own demise. What happened once those magical barriers were lifted? People became insane, one by one, which led to the formation of the Silent Choir. The pillar's influence was so strong that people quite literally died in droves in front of it. All those who believed died and worshipped to the stone. Once the Whisperer finally fell to its influence, she submerged herself in the waters of the city's now sunken cathedral, leaving the Shadow Realm influence to grow unchecked before it fully consumed Lassar in its entirety. Shadow entities and tentacles could roam free, and live out their shadowy lives in peace. We witnessed this corruption firsthand during Desert Treasure 2, though we dip in and out of the Shadow Realm as we attempt to make our way to the Whisperer. Utilising unique devices crafted by Kettler, or Slisk as you'll discover, we do come upon the Silent Choir and the Blackstone pillar within their church. Simply being close to it, we get knocked unconscious, and have this cutscene play out, where an entity attempts to drive us insane. Though we are saved, and Kettler says that without the totem, it cannot spread beyond this city, meaning she must have destroyed it. This definitely isn't the last time we'll come across the Shadow Realm, nor will it be the last time we deal with this entity that tries to take our mind. The second pillar, so far, is inconsequential. So much so that I didn't even realise it was a thing until I teleported to Mostly Harmless for a fallen star to mine, and I just saw it laying there, menacingly. It was added into the game for a reason, and was renamed in 2006 from Strange Rock to Ancient Pillar, and it looks exactly like the Blackstone pillar in Lassar Undercity. While the effects of the pillar being here aren't immediately noticeable, if you journey into a cave just east of town, you'll come across cave horrors wearing black masks. Who are they? And why are they there? We have no idea, no hints, no nothing. They're simply there, ready to be killed for a Slayer task, and potentially drop their black masks for us. Though there are some theories that we can pull. Now the black masks are actually made from Blackstone, the very substance that this chapter is about, that has caused people to be driven to insanity through worship and eventually death. It's easy to put two and two together and come to the conclusion that whatever the cave horrors wear was corrupted and twisted by them wearing the black masks, so much so that they are now mindless creatures only intent on killing unsuspecting adventurers. But if we're right in that conclusion, then shouldn't we be worried that we wear those black masks, or even worse, we ideally utilise them in a Slayer helmet for every single task that we do? And here we are, the meat and bones of this entire video. The Shadow Realm and Blackstone are one thing, but Xau-Tak is something else entirely. Nothing concrete about it exists, only mentions or small hints, and our biggest encounter was in Desert Treasure 2, when we came face to face with ourselves when we come across the Blackstone pillar. And all we got in the end, after being driven to near madness, is one question. Do you really think you can save them? Now for this part of the video, I will need to relay information from RuneScape 3 in small bits, as there's a lot more within that timeline of the lore. That being said, I'm not going to be grabbing everything, as I'm sure whatever way it plays out in OSRS, it will be different to some extent. Xau-Tak is an entity believed to be potentially an elder god, often associated with Blackstone, big surprise there, undead and the oceans. And of course, as I've mentioned it a lot, the phrase, do you really think you can save them? Allegedly, it was active in and around the islands of Gilinor's eastern sea, but little has been seen of it since the Second Age. Slisk had described it as a being that writhes, twists and beckons. As it's primarily associated with the oceans, you can probably guess that it plays into the pirate storyline quite nicely. What with the ancient Blackstone pillar being nicely nestled in Mostly Harmless, and within RuneScape 3 it was primarily connected to the questline Aswell, considering there were more quests in that questline. But over time in that timeline, its presence has been linked more and more to the Eastern Lands and the Dragonkin. V, the Fremennik god, who is also present in RuneScape 3, is described as an evil god that devastates worlds and creates corpse oceans. He also claims to have visited worlds that Xau-Tak had conquered, only to find death and destruction on barren wastelands. We can even bring up the cave horrors from the RS3 side of this, that being that a crew of Zarosian soldiers were sent to investigate the island of Mostly Harmless, as it allegedly contained a lost city of mask-wearing ape-like creatures that practiced cannibalism and necromancy. Those that ventured there, only one survived, losing his left leg and right foot to claws that wouldn't let go, and the ship showing the same damage by the claws. He did come back with a treasure though, one that sung to the crew at night, causing 4 members to become absent and dreary, being killed that same night. Though the artifact is lost, it certainly sounds similar to stories of the Blackstone and the Silent Choir that we know quite well now. doesn't it? To move back to old school, there's honestly not a lot of solid information here. There's no wiki page either. But that does leave us room to speculate, and considering that sailing is a skill that will be implemented in the future, I wouldn't be surprised to see this entity start to have a growing presence. I wonder if that scene that we see in Desert Treasure 2 is just a precursor, a breadcrumb into what lies waiting for us in the eastern seas, should they ever be released. Temples filled with corpses, tribes potentially wearing those same black masks, the possibilities are endless. But one thing we do know for sure is that Xau-Tak is no meagre enemy. Not some random level 6 goblin that you can instantly kill to finally get 99 strength, but something that will be much, much larger and a lot more deadly. I mean, for all we know, Xau-Tak could be the big bad in OSRS, or one of them at least. His influence grows stronger, and considering the Shadow Realm is quite literally covering the entirety of Gielinor as far as we're concerned, who knows what could be hiding in those shadows. Though I'm not confident that we'll be seeing much in the way of hints about Xau-Tak and Varlamore, never say never. But once sailing is released, I expect the stakes to be just a little bit higher as we start to enter uncharted waters. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. How do you think Xau-Tak will play into OSRS? Because I do think they're plotting something with it, considering its appearance in Desert Treasure 2. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please do like and subscribe. It'd mean a lot. I've got a good list of topics I want to cover, but if you guys want to suggest something then feel free. I'm always on the lookout for more things to talk about. And as always, thanks for watching, and see you next time.